Hey beautiful women, namaste to you. Welcome to, I've lost track actually, the number of this live in the set of transmissions I'm doing right now on the Living Shakti Awake program that I'm launching this January 2022. So today is January the 7th and today I am talking about the fourth workshop in the Living Shakti Awake series, and the theme of this workshop is sacred service. Sacred service. And this workshop is the first in the second semester. So the Living Shakti Awake program that starts this month is divided into 3 semesters. Of 3 months. So the first semester I've already talked about, the theme for that being me and God, Goddess as one. So in that we've covered embodying Shakti, sacred shadows and sexy wounds, and divine gifts. Then there's a break, and in the 4th month we pick up and build on that foundation. And this second semester is all about bringing the sacred to life, because Tantra, you know, is all about the marriage, the merger, the union of the sacred with the profane. It is about waking up through life, with life, and that's why it's such a feminine centered path, because well, in this paradigm anyway that I'm a part of, all that is manifest, all that we can touch, taste, smell, see, think, imagine, all of this is the realm of the feminine. And Tantra is a path of spiritual awakening through the full deep dive merger with all of these aspects of life, including everything, rather than escaping from life and ascending up and out and staying there. It's about bringing new levels of consciousness down. So we ascend, but we then also descend and bring new levels of consciousness and light and creativity through back into life. So it's this constant in and out, up and down process, and it is designed to create union of above and below, of the spiritual with the material. So we are living in flow, we are living aligned, we are living as one with the divine. That is this pathway. And so in this second semester, it's all about exploring and integrating through our lived experience with the nitty-gritty of life. So we have sacred service, which I'm going to be talking about today. Then we have sacred relationship. And then we have sacred earth. So encompassing all the ways in which we as human beings, relate with one another, relate with the planet, and engage in our daily lives. These are some of the key areas of how we show up and where we are challenged. Because, of course, spirituality is not something that is designed to separate us from life, but to fully flourish and blossom us in life. Heaven on earth, not in the afterlife, but here right now, living as one with God right now, not in the afterlife. And so nothing is left out, and the first theme, as I'm going to speak to today, is sacred service. So, you know, I spoke about this a little bit in the Divine Gifts transmission, and it does build very much upon that. So, you know, we started with embodiment of our divine feminine and our Shakti essence. We moved to an exploration of our wounding and our shadows and our traumas, understanding how they are the very pearl grit for our awakening and for our light and for our divine gifts. And then stepping into the recognition, the ownership, and the discovery, the reclaiming of our soul gifts, which then leads us on very much to this, our purpose here, and also just bringing the notion of sacred to what has classically been called our work. So in this new paradigm of awakening and the transformed consciousness and the transformed states of being that we're now here to embody and realize in our lifetimes and beyond, it's not any longer just about going to work, doing the 9 to 5, exchanging our energy and time for money so as to pay a mortgage and get food. Even though, and this is really important, that is not to be denied, because I think, again, a huge part of the spiritual path and the New Age path can be in some ways to deny those needs as part of life. Remember, Tantra misses nothing out, and we are not pushing away or distancing ourselves from those needs, for shelter, for food, for money. So there's nothing that we are judging about material well-being, about wealth, about abundance. And in fact, personally, I'd speak to that a little bit. It's really interesting in my own path, in my own journey. I went to university. When I graduated, got a really high-powered, high-paid job as a management consultant in London. And, life was easy, money was easy. I was well off, not super wealthy, but I was well off. I bought my first 3-bedroom house when I was 25, I think, 25, 26. Had all the trappings of the things that people define as success. It was all very, very easy. And then much later, when I stepped onto my spiritual path, two things happened in conjunction. One was that I became a single mum as part of that shifting onto my true soul's path. And then I became absolutely called and devoted to what my soul wanted to do rather than what my head had been telling me was the sensible thing to do. And the truth was, even though I was successful, I also had my own marketing research business and was successful, and making money was easy. There was always a sense of unfulfillment in me. I was never fully content. And that kind of really dogged me until I discovered the conscious dance practice that I trained in, and then the way everything else unfolded from there. I began to follow the calling of my soul rather than what the head said I should be doing. But I took a huge income cut as a result of that, and really for many, many years struggled to survive as a single parent wanting to earn a living in the spiritual world. and I think for a while I also took an attitude of distancing myself from the material world, almost with some kind of judgment of greed, judgment of materialism, judgment of the pursuit of profit at the exclusion of integrity, judgment of the whole economic system that is designed around creating desire for products and services, to create this endless looping of striving for more money and more things, rather than taking care of the planet, taking care of oneself, and taking care of one another. And so, it was kind of like this rebound. So I went into a place of almost kind of polar opposite from the material world for a while, and was feeling some judgment towards that way of living, right? Even though I myself had been, I was never driven by greed or like the, designer labels, and having lots of things wasn't ever anything that was really important to me, but I had a comfortable lifestyle nonetheless. And so, that's my own personal journey with this theme. As I've evolved with that, and as I've grown with that, and as I'm part of the awakening that we all are, you know, balance is coming and has been coming back in over the years. And the way that I'm now called to present this and embody this myself and to call you to is to understand the way that you are showing up in the world, in your work world, but also beyond that, as sacred service. You've come here as a soul with very unique divine gifts, which was the last month's theme, right? And with a very specific purpose or calling. And it doesn't have to be something grand. It doesn't have to be that you're going to be a priestess or, you know, a Tantra facilitator or a teacher of something. It doesn't necessarily mean that at all. But using the word sacred brings in the intentionality and the awareness that is missing. So there's two parts to this. On the one hand, there is the listening to your soul. There is the listening to your calling. And I see this in my clients. So many clients are recognizing that they can't keep on working in the same way anymore. Pretty much everyone I've worked with as a client has had that recognition or is having that recognition, and they are completely changing the work that they do in the world and how they live and how they use their time and energy. Because it absolutely is an unavoidable part of the awakening process, that as we begin to let go of the conditioning and the programming, what is important to us changes. The gifts and the skills that have lain dormant become more obvious, and it becomes harder and harder to keep making ourselves do something that is not in alignment with our soul, right? And this is how the future is going to be. Each and every one of us called to show up in sacred service, on purpose, doing the work that is in alignment with our soul, recognizing that doesn't mean that we all have to be, you know, some great big leader who's famous, right? That's kind of old paradigm nonsense. It could also be that your sacred service is not something that you would even term as work. It could simply be the way that you show up and interact with other human beings in your day-to-day life. It may be some voluntary work that you do. It may be the one relationship you have with your next door neighbor that makes such a difference to your next door neighbor. You know, it's on every level. But simply using the term sacred reintroduces awareness, mindfulness, sanctity to what we are doing, right? Because so often we're going through life in this hamster wheel, rushing, doing, chasing, and we're not even aware of what we're touching, what we're tasting, how we're standing, how we're moving, how we're interacting, what energy we're carrying, what thoughts are going on, right? We reintroduce the sacred into our service, into our world of work, into how we're showing up, and with that comes intentionality, with that comes energy, with that comes awareness. And so on the other hand, you know, it is about aligning with the soul, it is about aligning with your truth, it is about bringing forth your divine gifts and your soul's purpose. And on the other hand, it could mean that you don't need to change anything at all about where you are and what you do. It simply is a complete revolution and change in your perspective. So say you're in a job right now that you really don't feel fulfilled in, and you do not enjoy, and you're resentful about it, or you're triggered by the people that you work with, right? In the concept of sacred service and in the path of Tantra, there's nothing inherently wrong or bad about that. That, in fact, is the very place you need to be given the pokes and the prods to awaken. So that colleague that you're working with who really triggers you and pisses you off, they're the soulmate right there to show you something more about yourself. They're the soulmate right there to show you, how do I actually respond when I'm faced with this situation. They're the soulmate right there to invite you to remember your shadows and your wounds and see if there's still something there that has its hold over you, so that you can be liberated from that programming, right? And the job that you've been doing that maybe, you haven't enjoyed, or you've resisted, or you want to leave, if you change the perspective, then again, it's how do I bring the sacred into this? How do I shift the way I show up so that I'm bringing awareness into how I move through my day in this office or in this working environment, into how I interact, literally understanding that the divine is inherent in everything and everyone. And the way that is brought through is through you. It's through each and every one of us, remembering that we are a speck of God, and everyone else is too, and everything else is too. So work isn't unspiritual, money isn't unspiritual, abundance isn't unspiritual. All of it is part of the divine. But what makes the difference is our intention and our awareness and our remembrance of who we are, and our capacity to remain connected with our deeper truth, with our deeper levels of consciousness in that environment, because that's the challenge. Like I've said so many times before, it's easy to go to a workshop, and have multiple orgasms or energy orgasms, or open your third eye, or connect deeply with others and feel your heart opening in a workshop setting. That's easy. How about life? How about at work? How about in the office? How about in the world, right? It's easy to go to a beautiful retreat center somewhere in a tropical setting or a mountaintop setting and meditate in stillness. That's easy. There's no distractions. There's no one to trigger you. There's no 10 deadlines that you have to meet in the next 5 minutes, right? That can cause your nervous system to get agitated and stressed. That's when it really counts. How do you respond then? Do you still remember your divinity then? Do you still honor what's happening as sacred then, right? Just looking at my notes to see what else I'd like to say. Yeah. We each have a way we are called to serve. And again, for each of us on this awakening path at this time, there is a call. There is a call, which is, how are you going to serve? And the response to that can be like, who? Me? Am I good enough? Am I ready enough? Yeah. If you're able to listen to your soul's truth, of course you are. There's always going to be a next step. There's always going to be a next level. There's always going to be more. But the most important thing is to take the first step in and towards where you are truly called to go. And let go as you go of the programming of self-doubt, of the programming of the old patriarchal paradigm, which says you have to work hard to be successful, to get money, you have to work hard, you have to do, all these things, right? It is all old paradigm, and the new paradigm is so much more about feeling your alignment, resonance, feeling the resonance within and without, feeling the joy in how you're showing up in the world, letting things be easy and flowing, right? Not hard, not pushing, but easy, effortless, enjoyable, blissful, fulfilling. That's the accent and the flavor of sacred service, not martyrdom, not self-sacrifice, not pushing, not striving, not doing, being your true self, shining as your radiant true self. In that you are already serving. And as each and every one of us steps up into the way we are called to serve, in serving we are fulfilled when we're truly aligned. Again, and I have to emphasize, this is not in any way about martyrdom or self-sacrifice or, oh, how can I help? You know, it's not a mental, intellectual process. It's never about giving to the detriment of your own energy, time, resources. When you're aligned with the true sacred service you are here for, whatever that is and however that manifests through you, there's a feeling of effortlessness. There's a feeling of expansion. There's a feeling of infinite energy. There's a feeling of I'm in the right track. There's a knowing. There's a purpose. And in my experience, the more I have dared to align myself and step up into that sacred service, the more I've been able to let go of control, let go of having to know everything, and to really open myself up to be a vessel for the divine to show up through me, right? Because there's that inner relationship that I'm constantly cultivating with stillness, with truth, with love, with Goddess. And there's space that I make within my own being for that to come through me. So it's less and less, again, old paradigm, intellectual assessment, intellectual planning, doing the sensible thing, figuring it all out. It's less and less, well, eventually it's not about any of that at all. It's about opening. Women, we are designed to open and receive. We are designed to open and receive cosmic wisdom, cosmic downloads, inner prompts that come through the body, the womb, our feelings, our sensations, our intuition, our psychic insight. And there is where the guidance and the knowing arises from, not from the intellect. And as we open and allow and trust, so divine begins to move through us. And there's nothing that we need to strive for. We simply have to allow and be and trust. Not trying to save anybody, not trying to change anybody, not trying to rescue anybody, but opening, allowing, being one with divinity and allowing the sacred to flow through. In that you are already serving, and in serving being fulfilled. I can't tell you how every time I show up for all the ways and in all the ways I am called to show up in the world, whether that's teaching a private Shakti yoga class, whether that's facilitating a sacred circle like I did the other night, whether it's teaching a Dancing the Goddess workshop, whether it's in a one-to-one session with a client. There's no strain in that, and I come away radiant, I come away illuminated, because together we go into that space of the sublime and the divine, and everything is met. So I am blessed. I become more radiant, I become more empowered, I become more inspired in the very act of service. I hope that makes sense. And as each and every one of us moves this way in our work world, in our showing up in the world, so again, each and every one of us, and I keep saying this But I feel it's important to be said, it's like a light bulb that's going on in the web of life, creating this divine matrix that is heaven on earth. Each of us unique, each of us bringing our soul gifts, right? Each of us showing up wherever we are called to show up in this way, bringing heaven to earth through our bodies, through our lives, through our work, our sacred service. And again, just keep reiterating, it doesn't have to be something grand or famous or about followers and all that stuff. I really see this in my clients now. There's been a real shift in the clients that I work with. Pretty much every client that I've worked with recently is a woman with high standing in her career or profession, so fully immersed in her professional world, in her work life, successful in the mainstream sense of abundance and status. And now in her awakening journey, called to integrate all that she's learning, expanding and shifting into her realizations into that world. And I find that so very exciting, because I feel this is a huge way in which we are going to be leaders in the change, in the ascension process, not through running away, but through staying right here and being these light sparks in all the places that we are geographically, in all the environments where we're working, in hospitals, in offices, in commerce, in banking, in science, in teaching, in all these different areas of life. We are beginning to show up as divine sparks, and that is part of this beautiful shifting that is happening on earth at this time. No more comparison, no more trying to copy or emulate or be like anybody else. This is so much about you being you and you daring to be you. And just feel like, and really allowing there are so many of you who, as children and young people, had such an array of beautiful gifts, and then something happened as you were a young child or a teenager that caused you to doubt those gifts and to shut down your radiance and your blossoming and all the things that were beginning to pour forth through you. And I really feel guided to speak to anybody for whom that resonates, and just call you to feel back to those moments when you were younger, as a child or as a teenager, where you were unselfconsciously expressing your gifts in whatever arena that was, and to now reclaim that aspect of yourself, because that is a part of your sacred service. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but it's really important for you to hear and to understand that, because there's such a strong culture of putting people down and trying to squash their light, but the world needs your light and your brilliance, your magnificence, your hugeness, your greatness. So please let us now let go of any of that thinking and conditioning that is about keeping yourself small. I'm just going to conclude, just keeping an eye on the time, with a very, very, very brief invocation for this sacred service in the world. Just close your eyes with me for a moment. Feel yourself inside your physical body, the earth supporting you, your breath flowing in and out. Feel the energy of life alive within your physical body now, your shimmering radiance, your essence of Shakti, always here, always accessible. Tune into your heart and the stirrings of your heart, and what my words have triggered for you, have evoked for you, and allow your heart to feel stirred, to feel awakened, to feel called, and to feel impassioned. And also through your heart, bringing love for yourself, bringing forgiveness for yourself, for any thoughts of not good enough, not deserving. Wrap that part of you in your heart now with love. All embracing unconditional love. Take your awareness down to your womb space and your sacred yoni. Breathe into her. Feel her stir with aliveness, with sensation, with desire. Breathe in and expand your consciousness and your energy here. And allow your desire to bubble, to flame, to burst, to rise, and to meet the heart. Desire flaming up and meeting the heart, rising up and flowing up from the heart through the throat into your third eye, expanding consciousness open, wide and vast into the realms beyond and so much that is unknown. Expanding and opening at the third eye and the crown, divine inspiration, downloads coming in from above. Fiery passion rising up from below. Let yourself be stirred. Let yourself be awakened. Let yourself open to hear your calling. Let yourself be open to receiving the divine guidance that is destined for you. How may I serve? How may I serve the planetary awakening at this time? In a way that is truly fulfilling for my heart and soul on every level, and in a way that blesses both me and all in my realm. It's an open question. You don't need to hear the answer now, although maybe you have, but let that question stay with you. Be open to receive the answers. Going to close this transmission here with thanks and gratitude and love. The Living Shakti Awake program is kicking off next Wednesday, the 12th of January, with the first Evolutionary Sister Circle. So if you're keen to join that circle, it's a closed group journeying together for a minimum of 3 months, a maximum of 9. Then be in touch. We start next Wednesday, January the 12th. The Living Shakti Awake workshop series starts on the 29th of January, and we'll be journeying through one workshop a month for 3 months and then a break. So again, I'll put the information for that below or in this post, and if you have any questions, please reach out to speak with me. Thank you for being here. Much love, and I'll see you tomorrow when I'm going to be talking about sacred relationship. Namaste.